What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Golf on Tap. We're back to recap Min-Woo Lee's maiden PGA Tour victory at the Houston Open and to preview and go through our picks for this week's Valero Texas Open as we're now down to our final tournament before Augusta National. The Masters is right around the corner, the best time of the year. If you're joining us right off the rip, make sure, if you're not already, to hop on over to the YouTube feed so you can comment and let us know who you're going to be tailing for this week's Valero Texas Open, your thoughts on Min-Woo Lee's victory, all that good stuff. Make sure to check out On Tap Sportsnet as well for my preview article, as well as a write-up on 4 of my favorite bets that I'll be going through here through the episode as well, and all of the great content that we post there, golf content, Chicago sports coverage, beer reviews, movie reviews, tons of fun and good stuff over at ontapsportsnet.com. Ross, excited to be back on the show, my friend. Thank you for joining me on this fine Wednesday evening. As I mentioned right off the rip, final tournament, final tune-up before the Masters at Augusta National. How the vibes doing, my friend?
Honestly, I'm feeling it. I'm starting to feel it. Went a little bit heavier this week on my card because I want some more money to play with at Augusta. But overall, Sunday just actually felt like one of the first real good ones in a while this year, which we've had a bunch of great finishes, but Sunday was the first time that you had that leaderboard just being like, oh shit, like lock in for the next couple hours because this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, it was an awesome final round to the Houston Open down at Memorial Park, which has been a golf course that I've really enjoyed watching over the last couple of years. Last year when I cashed Steven Yeager there was an awesome final round where it felt like 6 or 7 guys could have potentially won. And even though Min-Woo Lee entered that final round, Ross, with a 4-shot lead, it did feel like it was a clutter right below him on the leaderboard and somebody was going to make a charge. And we saw that with a couple of different guys. Obviously, Scottie Scheffler, the boogeyman, annoyingly never goes down without a fight. Rory McIlroy had a strong Sunday as well. Gary Woodland was right there in the mix, which I thought was awesome to see. We'll definitely have some more thoughts on Gary here in just a second. But yeah, Memorial Park seems to always make for a good finish to golf tournaments. As someone, though, who had a ticket on Min-Woo Lee, it was a little bit more stressful than I would have liked there, Ross. And I don't know if I've ever been as nervous as I was, despite Min-Woo having a 5-shot lead, because there were guys making those charges that I just outlined. Min-Woo, fortunately, was, taking care of business, didn't have any bogeys on the front 9, an incredible par save on the 8th. Shout out to his caddy, Bo Martin, by the way, for, even though it took a little while, and we'll get to that in just a second here too, Ross, wound up getting his man to make the correct decision there, winds up saving par. That stroke winds up being a crucial difference, and Min-Woo eventually breaking through. Still taking care of business, though, on the back 9 until we get to the 16th, Ross, and that's when Scottie's already on the green. He's got like 22 feet for eagle. I've been scarred enough over the last couple of years with all the runner-ups that I've had to Scottie Scheffler. I was pretty much assuming that he was going to make it at this point, but I'm like, all right, Min-Woo, just make par here. The 17th is an easy hole as well. If we need to, we can always make birdie there. Just take care of business here. What does he do? Literally goes off the planet, in his own words, as he said during his post-round presser, 80 yards right into the drink. Never even had a chance of finding dry land. Didn't even cross anywhere either, Ross, so he had to re-tee from there. Did a pretty good job all in all to just wind up saving bogey, but his 5-shot lead that was there, I think, on the 12th or 13th is now down to 1 with 2 holes to play. I am absolutely melting. My mind is in shambles, but what a big time 4 by Min-Woo Lee on 18. Clearly seemed to be a little bit juiced up and filled with adrenaline as that wedge that he had. It was only like 159 yards into the green on his approach shot, but launched it super long of the green. But the strength of his game, the around the green, gets it to tap in range, and then in classic Min-Woo Lee fashion goes aim point over the half-inch putt to be the true showman that he always is. Min-Woo, I don't think he did it on purpose, but a man of the content, making it an enticing finish at the Houston Open. But congratulations to Min-Woo, man. The kid is so talented. He's had some close calls over the last couple of years. Felt good to be on him for his maiden win, considering I thought it was a perfect setup for him with the way that he can just mash driver everywhere, and he got away with it in the final round. Ross, he had 3 drives that were really horrible, but on that PGA Tour style setup, he can get away with it. Not many other courses that he can, but felt good to hit the Minwoo Lee ticket. Always makes it an exciting ride. Give me your thoughts on Minwoo finally coming through for his first win.
Well, I mean, it's been known for a while that he's talented. Got multiple victories over on the European Tour. Had all eyes on him for a while since he's been able to come over, and the talent is there. I mean, people are kind of already wrote off and forgot. Like a couple weeks ago at the Players, Minwoo is leading going into the weekend, does absolutely nothing to top off that weekend, and
Saturday was awful.
And ends up shooting 6 over, just taking himself completely out of it. But like, we've seen these bits and like little spurts throughout the year that it's coming around. I did laugh really hard that Minwoo did an interview yesterday, and they asked him about what were you thinking on the 16th, and he said, I'm watching Scottie putt, and I just sit there and go, just don't put it in the water. And then, of course, I put it in the water. And so I just kind of sat on the tee box like, damn it.
Yeah. Life comes at you fast, but credit to him for staying in his own lane again, like I mentioned, being able to make birdie on his second ball to be able to secure that cushion. Fortunately, Scottie didn't roll in the eagle putt on 16. He missed his birdie opportunity on 17 as well. And then kind of a non-Scottie-like approach into 18 when a year prior, when he was in the exact same situation, he flagged it and put it to 5 feet. Now, he did go on to miss that putt and gave Steven Yeager a one-shot victory, but again, because of all the scar tissue I have from Scottie, I was really expecting him to throw a dart there on 18 to put a little bit more pressure on Minwoo to force him to do something down the stretch there. But you outlined it, Ross. We knew the talent that Minwoo has, all the shot shapes, right? And the chip-ins, the short game's incredible. That was one thing I wrote up about him. Not only was he like a perfect fit for this golf course because of what he can do with the driver, just go and absolutely mash it out there, but his short game fits exactly what's needed from this course as well. And the chipping and putting is what really won him this golf tournament. His iron play was much better as well. And that's kind of been, Ross, the one thing that's truly eluded him since coming on to the PGA Tour has been that iron consistency. We know he can hit it a mile. They call him Dr. Chapinski for a reason. We know he can get streaky hot with the putter, but the iron consistency was the one part that had always been kind of lacking. And I think that's what bit him in the butt on Saturday at TPC Sawgrass a few weeks ago when the weather got a little bit dicey there. You had to be in total control of your golf ball, and he just wasn't on that golf course. He allowed himself to the way he drove the ball at Memorial Park. He gave himself so many short opportunities into the greens, and when there's not that much danger around for things to really go awry, right? Like, it's hard to find water hazards at Memorial Park and hard to make those huge blow up types of holes. That's why I thought it was a perfect course for Minwoo. So to be able to cash it in his first victory always makes it sweeter for me. He's going to have a soft spot in my heart for a long, long time. Congratulations to Minwoo. But Ross, we definitely got to talk about what was going on in that final group, as well as Alejandro Tosti, who both of us had wagers on, by the way. I know, unfortunately, you didn't also have the ticket on Minwoo, so you were quite pissed off with what Tosti was doing in the final round, but it's never boring with Alejandro Tosti, Ross. He is the definition of an Argentinian firecracker, and we love him for that, for better or for worse. This might have been a situation for worse, though, on Sunday, at least for his own chances of picking up his maiden PGA Tour victory, because it seemed like after on one, when he absolutely duck hooked his approach into the drink, I just talked about how hard it is to find the water at Memorial Park. Tosti found it in a matter of 2 minutes in the final round with just a huge miss to the left. But after that point, Ross, it seemed like he chose violence. You heard Bones kind of talk about how he thought he was being disrespectful to Ryan Fox on the first hole. I mentioned this to you when we were chatting off air a couple of days ago. I don't know how many people picked up on this, and I don't know if I'm honestly correct about this, but I did notice on one when Ryan Fox was chipping, like Tosti didn't really like fully get out of his way or even clear the green surface like you see most PGA Tour pros do for their playing partners, like giving them space, showing signs of respect. That's kind of what I picked up what happened with Tosti. But then obviously things went on to transpire later on in the round. Minwoo did admittedly take a long time to come to that decision on 8 in order to take a penalty stroke from out under the bushes. But Tosti, it just felt like was fully on edge throughout the course of that last round. I love Alejandro Tosti being the villain, Ross. We talk about it all the time. We need someone like that to spruce things up on the PGA Tour and make it entertaining. But as someone who also had a Tosti ticket and a Minwoo ticket, I didn't really like the gamesmanship that was seemingly going on there. During that final round, Tosti had a funny comment on X after the fact saying that Bones was just kind of talking shit for the fans. What he didn't say is that Tosti went to the bathroom and made himself a drink, apparently. I don't know if that was an alcohol-infused drink, but the lure of Alejandro Tosti continued this week down in Houston. Ross, give me your full 2 cents on the matter, my friend.
So I'm just going to keep it really simple that I agree that the tour needs a villain and someone like Alejandro Tosti. That's just fun. You need to always have that good and bad balance, right? And he is the perfect heel for all of this. He really is. The problem is, I think Sunday kind of became the realization that, okay, but the thing is that it is also your downfall and your problem that you are this person, because we're talking about the first hole. We're talking about the first hole. You are 4 shots back. It's not an unrealistic goal in the final round that you are 4 shots back here right now. Anyone can have a day. If you just play well, you're right there immediately. And it's the first hole we're going to start these blow-ups and these piss-offs and the mentality and everything that the game of golf is like, dude, by the first hole, I wish I had known all this earlier than I found out in the round, because I would have cashed my ticket before you even teed off and just taken the hedge money and done. Like, you were never going to be in contention if that's where the way you're going to play yourself into. And I think that's just something he's probably going to take in a lesson from and learn from here is like, oh no, you let that get away way early. Like back 9, maybe understandable, like pissed off, frustrated, whatever, not having a day, a little bit too far out of reach, out of contention, whatever. That point, we all get it. We've all been there, especially playing with buddies, whatever, getting taken for money. In this case, it's, dude, you just teed off and you're pissed about this. You're pissed about that. There's 17 more to play. And like, you're done. You're done because you're just spiraling from here.
Yeah. I don't really have any problem with like Tosti taking a stand on the slow play matter and taking matter into his own hands. I wish it wouldn't have happened in the final round. I think it's absolutely hilarious, and something needs to happen with the pace of play issues. I don't think the timing and the situation were the right part to go about it. I love Tosti's bad boy antics. He's the perfect guy to fill the vibe. But there's like, this was a clear example of why Alejandro Tosti is kind of like the golfer that he is, right? Because we saw Scottie Scheffler not really doing a whole lot of anything in that Sunday round until the 12th hole, Ross. And then what do you know? Minwoo hits one in the drink, and all of a sudden, Scottie Scheffler's right there, down 1 with 2 shots to play. Like, I know Alejandro Tosti didn't have his best stuff in that final round, but he was still making some quality shots and made enough birdies. Like, if he could have eliminated some of those bogeys and who knows, maybe stayed out of his own way a little bit more, like, he could have been right there up until the end. It felt like he had kind of maybe quit on his chances a little bit too early and just got sidetracked with some of the other stuff that was going on. Like, it was not the time and place for him to make that kind of stance while still in contention to win a golf tournament on one of the few golf courses on the PGA Tour that legitimately suits his game. That was kind of the upsetting part to me about what Alejandro Tosti was doing. It wasn't more so like the actions in alone of itself, because again, golf needs this type of entertainment. They need a bad boy, and I need Alejandro Tosti to keep playing well so I could get a singles match at the damn President's Cup between he and Patrick Cantlay, where he's just absolutely fuming out there as Patrick Cantlay's moving like a turtle. But if he keeps, getting in his own way like he did on Sunday, those opportunities aren't going to come. So that was kind of the frustration with me with Alejandro Tosti. It didn't really have anything to do with his actions. It was a little annoying for me as someone who had a Minwoo ticket, was just like trying to get this guy over the finish line, and Tosti's maybe trying to play mind games with him out there. That was the only part that had me salty about Tosti. But in all seriousness, like, disappointed with the timing of it from him, but we've come to know Alejandro Tosti at this point. We should expect nothing less, Ross, because the guy ain't out there to make friends. One of my favorite quotes that I saw from the week as well, I don't know if you saw this, shared by Michael Kim, who, by the way, congratulations to Michael Kim for getting into the Masters on the dot at number 50 in the official world golf ranking and just really turning around his game here so far this season. But Mike always does a good job of, like, after every tournament he plays in, Ross, he gives some thoughts and a quick recap of the tournament. One of the things he heard while being on site at Memorial Park this week was from Tosti, who had a new caddy, I believe, this week. And he told him, whenever I ask you, do I like driver? You look back at me and tell me I love driver. That's why I love Alejandro Tosti. And that's honestly why we bet him, Ross. Like, an uber aggressive player on a wide open course. It makes a lot of sense. Guy just needs to stay out of his own way a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't think that I could have said it any better. I think that's going to be his downfall for mainly his career. Is just getting in his own way, and it's going to be the mentality thing. It's fine. It's fine to be hot-headed. It's fine to be a firecracker. We like that. It's when you become your own worst enemy and self-sabotage.
What I will tell you, though, is the people are taken to Tosti, man. I was going through just like some of the replies on some of the bigger tweets from like the bigger X accounts and whatnot in the golf community. There were a lot of people standing up for Tosti, being like, yeah, Tosti, get on Minwoo's ass and whatnot. There were a lot of people that were seemingly on his side about this whole pace of play thing going on, Ross.
Yeah, I mean, our good friend Uncle Tweeth has said it perfectly. That just this is what the tour needs, and he's the perfect person.
I hope I'm not coming away with a too big of a spoiler alert here, but I really hope Mr. Tweeth Mitchell gets that article that we talked about out the other day, because I think it would be a great introduction for his first piece at On Tap Sportsnet. Everyone, make sure to be keeping your eyes out for that. Ross, Scottie Scheffler, obviously we've already talked about him, winds up finishing T2 here. I believe it's his third second place finish at the Houston Open. Rory McIlroy also made a really strong Sunday charge. It seemed like he was making every single birdie putt. Never really had a true legitimate chance to go and win the tournament, despite Steve Sands like saying he did after he was making birdie after birdie. But obviously the big narrative is the way Rory is playing going into Augusta. Probably the best form he's had heading into the Masters, right? With 2 victories, both of them coming at signature events. I don't think he has a finish outside of the top 20 so far. Another really good result in his last start before the Masters. Both of these guys in seemingly good form, despite Scheffler not having a win so far in 2025. I think it's the first time that's happened. First time of him not winning before the Masters since he donned the green jacket for the first time. But just for the sake of conversation, if you had to pick right here, right now, between Scottie Scheffler and Rory McIlroy, which one you're more confident in wearing the green jacket at the end of next weekend? Which one would you choose at this moment?
So I'm going to set this up. I'm going to set this up very fairly. Do you know what the one unique thing about Memorial Park is in the way it's designed?
Give me it.
Everything at Memorial Park reflects Augusta.
I mean, kind of. It's not that wide open, but it's set up similarly.
It's set up similarly. It is made with the same. It is made with the same grass. They ship in the same sand. They have everything designed as an homage to Augusta, just with less trees. But essentially, the way it is designed is the shots you have to hit at Memorial Park are the shots that translate you will eventually have to hit at Augusta. That is why you see so many people that play at Augusta come and make this stop on the tour every year. It's just a way to get there a little bit earlier. With that being said, I still think I'm going to take the guy that has 2 green jackets at Augusta right now going in there. And that's nothing against Rory. But Rory also comes out and hints out of nowhere that, hey, my elbow does not feel so great.
Really feels like that was a damage control type of move by Rory. Like, in case I don't win this thing next week, I got a boo-boo on my elbow.
Which is exactly where I went, that he knows he is playing so well right now, and it is highly expected that he's going to go there and win. That almost led me into, we've already had the mentality stuff in the past. I mean, Pinehurst last year literally made him walk away for several weeks because he needed to regroup, and he admitted he needed to regroup mentally, that tore him. That was the only thing that put me off saying and flipping this the opposite way is, are we actually hurt, or did we just try to save a narrative for if I don't play well at Augusta? And he may be hurt. And guess what? Everyone gets hurt. It's fair to be hurt. It's fine to be hurt. I just didn't like the timing of this, and it flipped me. I could see it being but exactly like you said. But if I don't play well, this hurts. Just so you guys know right now.
It didn't give off big dick energy, did it?
No.
It kind of gave off loser vibes.
If you kept your mouth shut and you just kind of moved along and went, I would be all in saying, holy shit, I think this is the time. You are playing. I think this might be the time. And then all of a sudden that comes out, and I immediately flip to, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to go right back to the dude that's already got 2 of them hanging in his closet.
Yeah, I can't blame you for that. It was a loserish type of comment from Rory. As much as he's been playing phenomenal going into Augusta, I don't know if it actually sways my decision, but wasn't a very big dick energy type of comment. Wanted to give a quick shout out, though, to Daniel Barry Sports for jumping into the show, as always. If I had to choose right here, right now, I'm still siding with Scottie Scheffler as well. But what I will say is, Rory McIlroy is probably going to have double the odds that he will in a week's time. So that's ultimately what I'm going to have to make my decision. But fascinating that both guys are truly playing so well going into Augusta. I think that just adds to the excitement that comes with the Masters next week, Ross. Also, got to give a shout out, though, to Gary Woodland, who was making seemingly every single putt on Sunday. It was awesome to see Gary pick up his best result since undergoing brain surgery. I talked to you about this when we were speaking a couple of days ago. I rewatched Full Swing here recently, and seeing Minwoo's episode where he was trying to, break that shell of being the other family member, considering what his sister has accomplished, and Minwoo hadn't won at that point in time, and some people thinking he's kind of an unserious golfer, being the Instagram type of guy. And then there was Gary Woodland's episode as well, where he was just detailing all of the battles that he had to go through and the incredible support that he's had from everyone since he returned. The crowd support for Gary Woodland, I thought, was awesome throughout that final round, Ross. He gave us a handful of cool moments, including the super cool Gary Woodland, hand raise over the eagle putt dropping on 17. It was like, oh yeah, this guy does that for a living. I thought that was super cool. And then throwing a dart on 18 to kind of give himself an opportunity should Minwoo fumble the bag there down the stretch. Gary Woodland's a beloved guy on the PGA Tour. It did hurt me a little bit as someone who had bet on Woodland a couple of times earlier on in the season, and then seeing him make that charge as I have Minwoo, I was like, Gary, I love you, my man, with all my heart, but please not today. But just so heartwarming to see Gary Woodland pick up this type of finish this week, Ross.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it goes into the Full Swing and him going through just the battle and the downfalls, the triumphs, the trying to get back, just deep encompassing his family and seeing the struggles he's had with his family and kids coming through this recovery. All around wholesome, heartwarming. Great to see Gary out there playing how we know Gary can play, and just a perfect time. And it was just a great narrative that their episode actually kind of fit into each other on the show. And then this is also just going to be, oh wait, no, they're both going to do it at the same time again.
They might have to run that back for the 2026 edition of Full Swing to give us the full update on G-Dub and Minwoo. And hopefully Gary at some point during the season will get back into the winner's circle himself as well. A lot of cool moments coming from the Houston Open. One final thing that I wanted to add, Ross, something I think we definitely have to bookmark into our brains a little bit more. And I have started to notice this. And I mean, the point of doing golf bets is when you hit, you get to victory lap them, you get to toot your own horn. I've now hit 3 consecutive winners at Memorial Park. I had Finau in 2022. I had Jaeger last year, and I had obviously Minwoo Lee this year. And one thing that's really become apparent to me, Ross, is there's a Mexico Open comp between these two golf courses. Even though the Mexico Open is the weakest field of the entire year, what is that golf course? It's wide open where you just go and grip and rip driver from off the tee. And you also got a lot of long irons into the green because it is a decently long course. That is basically the same thing at Memorial Park. And we saw a pretty decent amount of crossover from the Houston Open. But the biggest thing was ball speed. The ball speed guys at the Mexico Open, aka Aldi Potts. That's why everyone was on him that week. I know, tough memories. The ball.
I should be undefeated at Mexico. I'm just saying.
You should be undefeated. Fucking Brian Campbell. Lord knows where he's gonna even be in like 5 to 6 years. But the top 6 guys in the leaderboard, Ross, at this year's Houston Open were all the top 5 in ball speed. So just absolute bombers from off the tee play at the Houston Open. Something to put in the memory bank. Mexico, Houston, that's how you go about building your betting cards. But happy to get the three-peat at Memorial Park. Trying to go back-to-back like I did last year going into Augusta when I had Steven Yeager and Akshay Bhatia. Also, one little quick thing that I wanted to bring up as well that the PGA Tour didn't really bring up during the weekend was that battle between Mike Kim and Ben Griffin for the final spot into the Masters. I think we got shown Ben Griffin's putt on 18, the 5-foot birdie putt that ultimately didn't wind up mattering, which I'm sure was such a heartbreaker for Ben Griffin because there were some congratulations seemingly given his way, despite him finishing 51st in the official world golf ranking. As we talked about earlier, Mike Kim secures that final spot, finishing at number 50. Pretty disappointing, but also not surprising, Ross, that PGA Tour didn't really give this all that much light or time of the day. I do think they've done a better job over the last few weeks in some of the bigger tournaments, like outlining the cut line. And I think they've understood that fans want to see that kind of stuff. This was a storyline that, it was a slam dunk home run, and they didn't really talk about it more than 2 minutes. So kind of disappointing to me, but what a heartbreaker for Ben Griffin, man. As you told me a couple of days ago, Christopher Powers' tweet, having to push send on that bad boy had to just be an absolute tearjerker for old Benny Griff.
Yeah, they followed. I am proud that they at least highlighted this and made it known, right? But I wish it was reported. I wish they actually just went and they followed up on it. That the way they were projecting these things is. The way they're projecting is they're expecting Mike Kim's going to come in at 49 and Ben Griffin's going to come in at 50. They're going to punch their tickets to Augusta. What happens literally the next morning? Mike Kim comes in at 50. Ben Griffin comes in at 51. Ben Griffin is not going to Augusta and is now on to week 13 to try one more time to get into Augusta.
Absolute grinder is Benny Griff, but yeah, definitely a tough scene there. I feel like in the modern day and era with all the technology going on, and I know it is a neck and neck race, but I feel like we got to pump the brakes a little bit on giving guys that type of info unless we're 1,000% positive, because Augusta is the cream of the crop for all these professional golfers, especially guys who have never been. And I'm sure to be that close, only to be told you came an inch away from actually achieving your goal. Ben Griff does still have an opportunity to get the job done this week at TPC San Antonio, but that's an absolute ball buster, bro. I'd be fuming. I would not be sending a sweet tweet on X. That would not be my reaction if I just found that out.
Well, that's what I mean. Because in the moment, you just have to think, Ben Griffin is sitting there. He's being told by all these data and analysis people, congratulations, man. This is really impressive. And then the next day, OWGR comes out and does their update. And actually, Ben, you needed to move up 2 spots. You only moved up 1.
Yeah, absolutely brutal, man. Hoping for the best for Ben Griffin this week. Spoiler alert, he's not on my betting card, as I do worry about him running on fumes a little bit. But if it winds up happening, would be an awesome story going into Augusta.
Maybe
National.
Give Ben Griffin a little bit of luck, and we'll all just on tap, sprinkle a little cash on a Ben Griffin top 20, just enough to get you over the hump, Ben.
Honestly, that might be the play. I've had a lot of close calls with Ben Griff over the years. If I don't have something on him and he winds up getting it done, I'd be a little bit heartbroken.
Just everyone sprinkle a little bit of cash on Ben Griffin top 20, just out of good faith, get him over the hump and get him into Augusta.
Give Ben Griff a little bit of love this week.
On to week 14.
That would be nutty. That would be nutty. Last thing that I wanted to bring up, Ross, before we start previewing this week's Valero Texas Open and get into our bets in the final event before the Masters. Liv Durrell is going on as Liv comes over to the United States for their tune-up event before the Masters. I don't really got any picks. I'm not fully invested into Liv like that. I don't love their odds boards. I, again, don't love the format enough to go and place real money into this thing. But they do have a handful of big names that I know the golf world is interested in when the Masters occur next week. Ross, out of those big name golfers over there on Liv, who do you think has the best chance of contending at the Masters next week, if you have to guess right here, right now? If you just had to pick one.
If I just had to pick one,
who do you trust the most?
Bryson.
I mean, I don't blame you. And it feels like he's been starting to trend there. Obviously, he had the first round lead last year, wound up gassing a little bit over the weekend. The game is prime for Bryson.
Actually, if you were, I'll rephrase it this way. If we're going to go all encompassing right now for the majors for Liv players, I would be taking Bryson. Right now, after the past couple weeks, specifically at Augusta, I will admit that I did put in a minor ticket on Phil because Phil was out there at like 240 at one point.
Phil's starting to find the game a little bit. You know, another grizzled veteran who's starting to find the game a little bit over there on Liv, Ross? Sergio Garcia. He's another guy who he got in the winner's circle already this year, did it again last season. Guys who know how to get around that place.
And that's exactly where I was going. The guys, this is one of those courses that age and skill don't really matter. It's the knowledge here that this is where you need to be. This is what you need to do. This is how you get up and down and out of here. Beats the overall talent every single day. There's a reason that Freddie Couples comes to this thing every single year, pretty much still makes the cut against the normal field, just playing on the Champions Tour. And it's because Freddie Couples knows how to get around there while the young 22-year-old superstar is shooting 6 over and missing the cut. Freddie knows how to do it compared to this kid is just trying to shoot his best game.
There's always one old ball that finds his way into contention some way, somehow at Augusta, because it's just one of those courses where the knowledge, being your misses, knowing where to put the golf ball, it's just more crucial there than pretty much any other course for the rest of the season. So, yeah, guys like Phil Mickelson, guy like Sergio Garcia definitely can still hang around at a golf course like that.
I read an article earlier this week that they did like a poll of people that have played Augusta for the Masters in their career, and the average vote was like the third or fourth go around people had at Augusta is the first time they felt they had any like fucking sense of what's going on here.
Finally, when they had a little bit of a grip on it.
The first, they said like the first one or two were like, oh my God, we're just sheer shell shock. Like, oh my God, I'm playing at Augusta right now. Then you go through round 3 and you kind of remember a little bit of stuff. And when you get to like year 4, year 5, you kind of know where you need to be in that. And then statistically, like for everyone that was interviewed, that was like the year that they not necessarily, got in like top 10 contention, but like they put their names in contention. Like they went out, they fired off, they made the weekend, they went into like top 20, top 30, but it was statistically better than what they had done the previous 3-4 years. I
mean, there's a reason we haven't seen a debutante win at the Masters. And it's been a long, long time. So definitely those guys can still hang. As far as my Liv pick, I know it's kind of chalky, but I get a feeling Jon Rahm's got a little bit of a chip on his shoulder. He hasn't won a live event so far this season, but he also doesn't have a result worse than 6th, I believe. I don't exactly know how to quantify that because there's only like 10 guys that matter.
What does he
over on
have,
live.
Jack?
What does he have?
A green jacket, just like everyone else.
He does have that green jacket. He does got that swagger, and I do think he's got that chip on his shoulder a little bit, Ross. So we'll definitely talk more about the live guys through all of the great Masters content that we're set to have next week before the action begins next Thursday, just over a week away.
And I'm just gonna get ahead of it for all our live friends out there. He's an incredible player. He is one of the best players in the world. Don't come at me and tell me Waco is winning the Masters, because he's not.
No,
he's not.
I do think he could have his best finish in a major. I don't think he's.
I think it's pretty freaking simple to beat a T38, Jack.
No. He's got a top 20, and I believe it did happen at Augusta. But outside of that, yes, his major track record has been not the very good. But time to transition on over to the Valero Texas Open this week at TPC San Antonio, where I was very fortunate to be in attendance last year.
And where we are the defending champions. It was On Tap Golf's only sweep last year.
And it felt beautiful, and it almost didn't happen. Ross, it was one of the wildest things I've ever seen in person in my entire life. Let me take y'all back. 1 year ago, Akshay Bhatia has a 6-shot lead going into the back 9 on Sunday at TPC San Antonio. I'm there in person with an Akshay ticket. Fortunate enough to be credentialed to the event. It's a lovely Sunday afternoon. I'm enjoying the beautiful weather. I was also lucky enough to have my brother, who lived in San Antonio at that point in time, out with me on the course. That was the only day he was able to join me, so it was kind of cool to take him around following Akshay for the day. And then the back 9 happens, Ross, and Denny just makes birdie after birdie after birdie after birdie. And that lead just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And it was seriously a top 10 most stressful moment of my entire life. I could not believe I was watching this lead crumble in front of my eyes. I had actually called Joey Ricotta. He was along with the Akshay Bhatia ticket cash last year as well, obviously, as you talked about the squad ride. I had called him on like the 7th hole when Akshay was up 6, and Akshay was playing well at that point in time. I think he was 3 under on the day, right? Like exactly what you wanted to see from a guy who was entering the final round with that big of a cushion. I had called Joey. I was like, this is sick. Akshay's absolutely cruising. And then Denny goes freaking nuclear, man. And I had the biggest pit in my stomach. I could not believe what was transpiring right in front of my eyes. And Ross, I actually, just 2 days ago, I went back and watched the round 4 highlights from the Valero last year, and it was so funny. After Denny made the birdie putt on number 16 to cut Akshay's lead to 1 shot with 2 holes left, perfect video. I'm actually going to have to send it to you after the show. The camera cuts to the crowd after Denny makes that birdie, and hilariously enough, you can see me in the crowd just in disgust as I walk away to go to the next hole. It's hilarious because everyone's in the crowd clapping, like super excited. And then there's just me, who's an absolute dead body in the crowd. I'll have to send you the video afterwards.
You're just the famous Yankees fan that just sits there?
Yeah, was it the Alabama fan? You know, that kid with the huge poofy hair who was just that was basically me at Valero at that point in time. And then 17 happens. Akshay has like a 4.5-foot birdie putt to stay 1 ahead on Denny, and he misses it. He lips out, and now they're even going to 18. And Denny makes his birdie putt first to put all the pressure on Akshay. From up 6, going to the back 9, to now having to make an 11-foot birdie putt just to force a playoff. And Akshay drills it. But that's just when the craziness started, Ross, because during the celebration, Akshay lets out a fist pump and separates his shoulder out of socket, which no one even really realized until the playoff had already started, because after Akshay hit his drive, he's walking off the golf course, going to the side. And I'm like, well, where is he going? Then I see him take his shirt off underneath the scoreboard and is getting taped up by a doctor. I'm obviously there in person. I'm not able to listen to the broadcast. I have no idea what's going on. But during that point in time, Denny McCarthy randomly decides to chunk a wedge from 100 yards out, straight into the drink. All Akshay has to do with a tape-up shoulder is find the putting surface. He throws a dart to 5 feet and makes the putt to wrap up seriously one of the wildest 5 hours I've ever had in my entire life. In hindsight, Denny's run made the victory a little bit sweeter, but I never would have guessed that during that run on the back nine. Probably one of the most memorable tournaments of the entire year, Ross. I am a little bit biased because I was there in person, but one of my favorites from the 2024 season for sure, and made that much sweeter because eventually Akshay did get across the line for us.
I remember that I made Wesley cry because I screamed when Denny laid tossed sod into the creek.
Oh, one of my favorite moments ever. And I remember telling you too, not to interrupt, but I remember when we were recapping, I was right behind Denny when he hit that wedge shot. And there was like, it was a glitch in the matrix, Ross. I don't know if we live in a simulation, but if we do, it was working in our favor because Denny like glitched on his like takeaway on his wedge shot. He like double pumped and then duffed it right into the water. And I was the happiest man at TPC San Antonio.
Yeah, no, and shout out our good buddy Scratch. I'm sorry. I know this bothers you every time we talk about it, but it did happen. Jack and I came out victorious, but we are always going to celebrate the fact we like Denny. We like Denny a lot, but we are going to celebrate a little bit every single year that Denny decided to toss sod into the creek.
Oh, yeah. One of my favorite moments of all time. I am still to this day super blessed that Denny decided to, after making 8 birdies in 9 holes, the most unconscious I think I've ever seen a golfer, decides to look like a 14 handicapper in a playoff against our guy when we have a ticket on him. Thank you very much, Mr. Denny McCarthy. But this is an awesome golf tournament, Ross. And I do think the last couple of years, the field has definitely gotten stronger as I think guys have really taken this more serious as a lead up to Augusta. It's not necessarily a course that's similar to Augusta. You do get some of the similar around the green style shots because there's those greenside runoff areas, and that's really what's been tried to be implemented here at these golf courses in the final events before the Masters, is to get you that around the green feel and hit the around the green style shots that you're going to be hitting at the Masters. I've heard a lot of people not really have a lot of love for this golf course and say it doesn't really have a ton of identity. I think that's what makes it kind of special. Like, you get long par 4s, you get short par 4s, you get tough par 5s, you get some holes where the fairway is wide, some holes where the fairway is narrow. Altogether, you still got to be in control of your golf ball. You got to avoid those canyons that are out there on the course. There's a ton of rocks out there underneath those trees. So, like, if you do miss the fairway, it's kind of like a coin flip as to whether or not you're going to be able to play your second shot. And even though, Ross, there's only 3 water hazards on this golf course, there are tons of ways to make big numbers. It's a really intimidating driving hole that I don't know you can necessarily pick up on when you're watching on TV, but walking this golf course, like, if you miss wide right or wide left, like, there is danger lurking because you can get lost. And for the people who haven't seen the infamous Kevin Na clip when he made a 16 here, like back in 2012, go and Google that clip and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. But just perusing the course last year, Ross, it's one of those golf courses where a lot of the holes are side by side by each other on the front and back 9. And because guys can hit wayward drives, you'll just be walking. And then I remember I'm like, oh, hey, there's Nikolai Højgaard like 10 yards from me as he's 50 yards left from his fairway hitting his second shot. Like, guys are all over the place on this course if you're not able to take control of the ball. And it's also a pretty long golf course as well. It stretches 7,438 yards as a par 72, though. But as I mentioned, the par 5s are challenging. 3 of them are 3-shotters for most of the field as they stretch right around 600 yards. The real determiner into what kind of golf course this is going to play as, though, Ross, is the wind and the weather, like it always is in Texas. And quite honestly, this week, I can't really put my finger on how this course is going to play. We saw Akshay and Denny both reach -20 last year, but then third place was Rory McIlroy at -11. So, like, it can play super difficult. JJ Spawn won at -12 a couple of years ago, so you can get a winner in the low teens. You can get a winner right around -20. But when I went and looked at the weather, it looks like we're going to see thunderstorms on Friday and Saturday, Ross. And then after, it's going to be 90 on both Thursday and Friday. It's going to be a high of 65 on Sunday. So it's going to be a huge weather shift during that final round. And I believe that's supposed to be the windiest day of them all as well. So I kind of don't know how to exactly project if this is going to be a tougher golf tournament or if it's going to be an easier one. Like if the course is going to play wet, if it's going to be super windy or whatnot. But altogether, I think it's a relatively challenging golf course. And I think is a pretty fair test before Augusta National. Course that I certainly enjoyed perusing through last year. And hopefully I'll be able to get back there next year as well. Considering how well Houston has treated me, I think I might have to, keeping my fingers crossed that all things go well, maybe get the Memorial Park, TPC San Antonio double dip going on next year. Also didn't help that, Ross, the Final Fours in San Antonio this year, so it's going to be mayhem down there, and hotel prices were just absolutely redonkulous. Did not help my cause this year, but obviously Final Four won't be back there next year, so hopefully the traveling will be a little bit cheaper, but we got a pretty decent field, all things considered. Like I said, no Scottie Scheffler, no Rory McIlroy, no Xander Schauffele, but we do have Ludwig, we do have Patrick Cantlay, Hideki's back, Tommy Fleetwood, Jordan Spieth here, Ryder Cup captain Keegan Bradley, Tony Finau, Tom Kim, pretty decent 144 player field. But Ross, kind of give me your final thoughts on the Valero Texas Open. Obviously, we got some good vibes going into this bad boy off of the Akshay ticket. Before we get into the betting board here in just a second.
So I'm expecting for the still loaded field that we have. This is the push into Augusta. It really is. The people that are here that are big names playing are specifically trying to work on something and fine tune their game for Augusta. So I'm curious to see for next week, especially for cards, who comes through, much like Rory and Scottie did for us last week, to give us a good advantage of like, oh shit, like we're going to have to, regardless of how low they're going to be bet down, like you're going to have to take consideration that you might be looking at one of the two real two here, right? I think this is going to be the same thing, but just opposite minus Rory and Scottie. I think you're looking to see who's the big name at the top of the board that's coming in dominant. And I don't mean like, doesn't it mean the top, show me that 5 to 15 range, who's in there playing really well, really strong. I think that will carry over to next week when we are at Magnolia Lane.
And I agree. Most of the big name players in the field last year wound up finding their way at the top of the leaderboard. Rory McIlroy wound up finishing third. Tommy Fleetwood, T7, along with Hideki Matsuyama. Jordan Spieth was T10. Ludwig was T14. So even though it was Akshay and Denny going neck and neck for the win, a lot of the big name players who were trying to find that form before Augusta last year ended up finding it. We'll see if that winds up being the case again here in 2025. But Ross, moving on over to the odds board as we get into our picks for this week's Valero Texas Open. We'll just start at the top and go from 12 to 22. We got Ludwig at 12, Corey Connors and Tommy Fleetwood at 16, Patrick Cantlay at 18, and then Hideki and Jordan Spieth both at 22. You got anyone here from the top of the betting board this week?
So that I do have one that I hit really early in this week. Was the only definitive one I had that I really, really wanted. And I knew he was probably going to get hammered down. So I just got what I could get. I do have Corey Connors here at 18. And the main reason is because I also have a future on Corey Connors at Augusta.
You fully jumped on board with the Monday Q Ryan French. Corey Connors is going to win the Masters bandwagon, haven't you, Ross?
I did. But also I would like to be fair in this, that initially I went with Corey Connors because Corey Connors has a fantastic history here. But on top of that, I would just like to point out that at the moment, Corey Connors is also 80-1 at Augusta, and that just seems absolutely fucking ridiculous for someone as talented as Corey Connors.
Yeah, me and you talked the other day about how the futures odd board has been really ruined. Like most of the players' odds are going to be bigger when the market resets next week. Corey Conners is one of the few guys whose odds could still be the same or potentially even move down depending on what he does this week at TPC San Antonio. He's not a part of my card here this week, Ross, but that's good news for you because I've completely bucked the Corey Conners trend the last 4 years. I didn't bet him in 2021. He won. I did bet him in 2022. He didn't win. I didn't bet him in 2023. He won. I did bet him in 2024 last year when I was on site, and he didn't win. And I'm not betting him again this year. So definitely means he's in the cards to come through with his third PGA Tour victory. He's only won on this golf course. The price was a little bit steep for me. If I was going to go to the top, I'd probably go with Ludwig, who's very familiar with Texas-style golf, but cannot blame you whatsoever for going with Corey Conners on the golf course he's most certainly the most comfortable on the PGA Tour. Is that the only guy you got from this top of the board range before we go to the next, though? Don't want to skip out on anyone just in case.
So we will circle back on this a little bit later. We got some things to chat about. But yes, we can move a little further down.
All right, so we got, starting at 25, we'll go from 25 to right before 45. We got Akshay at 25, Keegan at 25, Denny at 30, Siwoo and Daniel Berger at 35, and then Tony Finau at 40. Do you got anyone in this range at all, Ross?
I have Captain Keegan at 25.
I jumped aboard Captain Keegan this week as well, man. Just playing excellent golf. He's got 5 top 20s and 7 starts so far this year. Doesn't have like the biggest sample size in Texas, but does have a pretty strong history. Last time he was in Texas, he finished runner-up to Davis Riley at the Charles Schwab Challenge, which I was also in attendance for. Still cannot believe that Davis Riley outdueled Scottie Scheffler and Keegan Bradley in that final round. But Keegan basically checks off like every box that I'm looking at this week. Has a really strong history in the state of Texas. Houston Open, 4 top 15s in his career. His maiden PGA Tour victory occurred in Dallas. I mentioned the runner-up last year at the Charles Schwab Challenge, and last time that he played at TPC San Antonio, he finished T8 as well. And I just feel like there's not many more legitimate opportunities for Keegan to get that victory that'll put him definitively on that Ryder Cup squad. And I've bet Keegan several times already this year, Ross. One thing I've gotten in a bad habit, I think, of doing, though, is betting him in signature event fields, albeit that's really all he's played this year. This is only the second non-signature event field that Keegan has played against this year. So he's finally not going up against the best of the best on the PGA Tour. And I still got him at 30-1 with Bet365, which is now launched in Illinois in their enhanced win market. I got Keegan at 30-1. Just playing such good golf, man. Let's ride with the captain this week.
Let's go.
You got anyone else, though, in this 25 to 40 pocket? I don't have anyone in this range either, but don't want to skip through in case you do.
I do not.
I will say I did give Daniel Berger and Siwoo Kim a pretty long thought, but ultimately ended up passing in favor of some guys a little bit further down the board. Not going to yell out everyone's name as we start to get into this middle tier of the betting board, Ross, but anyone that you have between 45 and 60-1, let me hear who you got and why this week.
So technically, in most markets, you're going to be able to get him between the 45 and 60. I got him a little bit sooner before his odds did shift. I do have Tom Kim. I do have Tom Kim here.
Dude, his irons are so crispy. He's a guy that lives in Dallas. I do worry about the short game, but on the bright side, if he's hitting every single green in regulation, which is like kind of the path for Tom Kim to win a golf tournament, that's certainly in the cards. And also, this is not like a true Bermuda golf course. And I told you when we were chatting a couple days ago, like, this guy has not figured out Bermuda yet in his career. This is definitely a better off spot for Mr. Tom Kim.
So everything that I read and saw, everyone seems to be in agreement that if he can figure out the short game, there is absolutely no reason that Tom Kim is not sitting in the top 5 on Sunday.
Yeah. Make no mistake about it. He's got the upside. We've seen it time and time again. And this is a golf course where, again, good drives really matter. And Tom Kim usually has control of his golf ball from off the tee. The click that I had in this middle range was Bud Cauley Ross, he's been playing awesome golf recently. Back-to-back top 6 finishes to close out the Florida swing. T4 at the Valspar Championship, where he had a decent crack at picking up his first PGA Tour win. Obviously, most of his sample size from his career comes from years ago, as he spent a lot of time off the course dealing with that injury stemming from that real serious car accident that he was involved in 2018. But it feels like Bud is playing his best golf since he's returned full time. And in my model this week, despite being 55-1, Ross, he was 8th among all players and basically checks every box. First in sand saves, 4th in scrambling, 6th in par 4s, 9th in bogey avoidance, 13th in greens and regulation, 17th in approach, 24th in good drives, 25th in off the tee. And he's also someone who's got a pretty decent history in the state of Texas. 6 career starts at the Houston Open. He's only finished outside the top 20 twice. He has 2 top 5s at the Byron Nelson when that was played at TPC Four Seasons Resort in Dallas. Also has 2 top 25s at the Charles Schwab Challenge. And the way he's been striking the ball is awesome, man. All parts of Bud Cauley's game, quite honestly. Pulling up his profile, there's so much green here in basically every category. He's showing the upside. Hasn't broke through to win, obviously, up to this point, so 55-1 is a little bit of a steep price tag, I will say, but just really good vibes around Bud. A super awesome storyline. I'm definitely on board at 55-1 this week.
Yeah, I think it speaks for itself based on the data. We like green. Good things are green. Lot of green lining up here.
Ross, I also made a very sicko move, something that I haven't done in, I don't know, maybe 2.5, 3 years. I bet Mr. Joey Ricotta's boy in Keith Mitchell. I don't know what it really was about Keith, but I went and looked through some of the numbers. I know he's a gutless loser when it comes on Sunday, but drives the ball super well in the state of Texas along with the approach. Has a pretty good history in the Lone Star State. 55-1, I don't know. I thought it was a pretty decent number, although it does make me sick at the same point in time. I don't blame anyone for not betting Cashmere Keith, but I know Mr. Tweeth Mitchell will be very happy that I jumped aboard the bandwagon this week.
Yep, 1,000%.
Who else you got on the card, though? We'll just go from 70-1 and down now as we're getting to that point of the odds board where a lot of names peruse through here. Who you got at the back half of your card to close things out and maybe cash you a nice big ticket before we hit the Masters next week?
So I'm a believer that this is the reverse effect of Max Grazerman, where I put Max on my card 3 times, believing it was his time for him to finish second, and then I swore him off. Well, this is actually the reverse effect I now have with this player, that I believe in him. The game is there, can be semi-sporadic, but it is there. And I'm officially getting to the point where I'm afraid to leave him off because he's going to break through on the week that I leave him off. And it's going to be once again after last week, again, that we're going to circle back, and Ryan Gerard is back at 70 again.
We all have those guys, Ross. We all have those. That's basically me with Ben Griffin. And it's probably going to happen with Ben Griffin when I'm not on him at this point in time. But we all have those losers that we just find ourselves riding along.
The perfect example is he's been on my card like 3 or 4 of the last 5 weeks. Last week I didn't have him on the card. He just flies up the board and all of a sudden he's right there chilling in the top 10 again, because I've sat there and was like, nope. Yeah, I've given you more than enough leeway. You are not going to do this to me. We are going to make a smart play. And then that's the week that he just gives me the big fuck you, decides to go play right in the middle of the top 10 strong. And so we're right back to, you know what? Okay, I'm just going to take my medicine, and it's a fair number. It's a good number. He's playing good golf again and still has been for a while, aside from 1 or 2 tournaments. So we're just going to go right back, take our medicine that it's got to be there.
I know the feeling all too well, my friend. The next guy I got to was Rico Hoyt at 80-1. Finished T14 in his only start at the Valero Texas Open last year, coming off a T11 at the Houston Open. Legitimately might be outside of Rory McIlroy, and even with Rory McIlroy in the conversation, Ross, he's one of the best drivers on the PGA Tour in the world, quite honestly. He's first off the tee on tour this season, gains like 4 strokes in that category every week. And I do think if it does wind up playing wet for Saturday and Sunday, or for Friday and Saturday, and even Sunday in that round that's supposed to be cold, I think the way that Rico drives the ball long and straight will be a huge advantage. Gained 3.5 strokes off the tee here last year. The real problem with him is the putter has been abysmal for basically every start in 2025. I mean, he lost 7 strokes in back-to-back starts at the Players and the Cognizant. Like, the guy legitimately cannot putt, especially on Bermuda. However, he gained 2.5 strokes last week, first time in the green with the flat stick in 2025. So hoping Rico's going to keep those good vibes going. Good approach player usually. Like in my model over the last 24 rounds, he's first off the tee and 19th on approach and also 39th around the green. So if he can just putt field average, I think he has a chance. 80-1 ticket. That's all I'm really asking. Who's the next guy you got on your card though, Ross?
So this one got bet down a little bit. I saw him this morning. He was way higher, got bet down, and I went, you know what? It's because people believe just like I believe. I have Justin Rose at 85.
Oh, I'm on Justin Rose this week as well, my friend. I think Justin Rose, 100-1 for Justin Rose is disrespectful. And I actually wrote him up in my column this week. Go and check out my article from my 4 best bets at ontapsportsnet.com. I talked about how there hasn't been consistency from Justin Rose this season. He's missed the cut 3 times in 5 starts. However, what are his results in the 2 times he has made the cut? It was a T8 at the Arnold Palmer Invitational and a T3 at the Pebble Beach Pro-Am. Those are 2 signature events against the best players in the world. And Justin Rose is 100-1 to win this golf tournament. I thought that was absolutely crazy. I know this is a guy who's going to be grinding to try and find his game before he hit the Masters next week. And also, not only for the reasons I just mentioned, is 2 times that he has made the cut, he's contended against signature events. This is a guy who's finished in the top 10 in 2 of the last 3 major championships. 100-1 this week. And also, he doesn't have a huge sample size in Texas like Keegan Bradley, but a pretty solid history. T2 at this event way back in 2006. T17 in his tournament debut in 2004. That was way back before TPC San Antonio was hosting this event, but he also has a really good history at Colonial Country Club in Fort Worth. He won the Charles Schwab Challenge in 2018, also has 4 other top 20 finishes there. And in his last trip to the Houston Open in 2022, Ross, he was T9, but played alongside eventual winner Tony Finau in the final pairing on Sunday. So we know the pedigree that Justin Rose has. We know the upside. 100-1 felt disrespectful. And just as a little bit of a spoiler to anyone out there who has Caesars Sportsbook or has access to that, they have a 30% boost going on there. And Justin Rose was still at 100-1 on that sportsbook. So I used that boost and I got Justin Rose at 131-1 this week, which I think is my favorite number that I have on my card, Ross.
Yeah. I read your article today, and that was me going back and on my initial thoughts this morning. Unfortunately, the number got hit down a little bit after I got a chance to read. But you know what? I was just going to ride because 85 is still an incredibly unbelievable number for someone like Justin Rose.
I completely agree with you. I would still advocate for people to take the 80. I mean this in no disrespect, but Matt Fitzpatrick and Ricky Fowler are 80-1, and those guys are like kind of lost right now. Justin Rose, I don't think is completely lost. Is he as consistent as he once was at the top of his game? No, but the upside and pedigree is still there. And if he's in the mix on Sunday, like, I don't think he'd back down from anyone. I'd trust Justin Rose.
Absolutely agree.
Who else you got on the card, though? Anybody else, or was Rosie how you closed it out?
So the last one, this name popped up several different places, and the more it popped up, the more I looked at it. It was like, ooh, that's an outside that I really like. At 100, I have Sam Ryder.
I like that play. Popped in a lot of the numbers I was looking at this week. I actually have them pulled up right now in my model. 14th in par 4s. 14th in bogey avoidance, 44th in scrambling, really good with his wedges. 16th from 50 to 75 yards and 35th from 75 to 100. Has contended on this golf course in the past really good drive percentage. He was someone I was definitely thinking about from that 100-1 range as well. Someone who even he has admitted like doesn't really have the consistency week to week, but can pop up every now and again. And this seems like a good golf course for it to happen.
I have Sam Ryder, and then I have a breaking news. After I already had my lineup ready to go, I had second thoughts and had to go back. I can't miss this. I can't miss this week.
Oh, who is it?
I've written about this for a year and a half now. I've written about this for a year and a half. And I'm just going to go out in a limb. It's time that we correct it. I went back and I hit Jordan Spieth at 22, that Jordan Spieth breaks through this week, that this is the place right before Augusta, that he took the little break off to give his wrist a little more time. But last finish was at the Cog, T9, taking a break off the past couple of weeks to let that heal, still hitting shots, feeling good. Hometown, let's go.
And I bet him at the Cognizant Classic in his last time out, and I really did think about betting Jordan again this week. I even texted my group chat with a couple of my buddies saying, like, I really wanted to bet Spieth. I just couldn't get to it at that 25-1 number. I just ultimately couldn't. But this is a Jordan Spieth spot, and you usually want to play Jordan Spieth at Jordan Spieth spot. So if it winds up happening, if this does wind up being the spot, because you've been the one to really pump those tires even prior to him going through that surgery and believing that when he does get it right, this is still possible for Jordan Spieth. I think the amount of times he's been in contention already this season is a huge positive for him moving forward. So I certainly cannot blame you for betting him at this tournament where I believe the second to last time he won on the PGA Tour, this is where it was.
Yeah, I was totally fine, good, ready to move forward. And then I couldn't miss this one. That this one felt like this is where it's going to happen.
I can't blame you, my friend. I did get pretty spicy from down the board this week. I took a lot of flyers on guys because I just wasn't particularly drawn towards the top outside of Keegan, Bud Cauley, and Keith Mitchell. Those are the only three bets I have under 80-1. Everything else I have is higher. So I also got to Mr. Tom Hoagie, who is a Texas native himself. T3 in his last time out at TPC Sawgrass, where he finally found his game after being pretty abysmal to open up the year. 100-1 feels like good upside for Tom Hoagie. He stripes with his irons every time he plays it here, and this is an event that you really need good irons in order to win usually. Just hitting a lot of greens in regulation tends to play out pretty well, so I got to Tom Hoagie at 100-1. I also went back to my boy Victor Perez for the second time in 3 weeks. I bet him at the Valspar. He's now finished inside the top 25 in 3 consecutive starts. His all-around game has been trending in the right direction. A guy who does have a pretty good history on the DP World Tour and contended a couple of times last season in his first full-time year on the PGA Tour. So I went back to Vic Perez. I went to Mac Meisner at 110-1, someone who is also a Dallas native who I don't admittedly expect Mac Meisner to win this event, but I do think he's going to start getting into contention a little bit more. Ross, like what we've seen from Jacob Bridgman these last few weeks, I think is coming soon for Mac Meisner. Both of those guys, I think, are capable of winning PGA Tour events. They just need a couple of more times in contention, and I think this is a really good spot for Mac Meisner as he picked up a top 20 finish here last year. Other than that, the final guy I went to was Doug Gim, who was number 18 in my model this week, despite having 140-1 odds. It's been a little bit of a tough ride for Doug Gim since he had that real close call at the Cognizant Classic. And I remember in that final round, he birdied his first couple of holes. It looked like that could have potentially been the day for Doug Gim, wound up not being the day for him. Since then, he has 2 missed cuts in a T57, but we know when his game is right. What's the strength? It's him hitting good drives. It's the iron upside. The around the green play started to come to life a little bit again, and he actually gained 2.5 strokes putting at the Valspar Championship. The putter is usually abysmal for Doug Gim, so I'll give him a chance at 141, considering he's shown a little bit of life in the short game categories here as of late, but lots of flyers for me down the board this week. As I said, Ross, hopefully we'll keep the good vibes going from the Houston Open last week and pick up a winner for the second consecutive year at TPC San Antonio to bless our bank accounts with a little bit more money before we're sure to disperse it in a handful of different ways on Magnolia Lane next week, my friend.
Yeah, I'm ready. Let's get a big week. Let's cash one more check before we got to play Augusta.
Couldn't have said it better myself. To everyone who tuned into this episode, just want to say thank you all again very much. Make sure to go and follow the show 100% for free on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Wherever you check out your podcasts, go and subscribe to On Tap Sportsnet on YouTube as well. We're really trying to grow the show over on there. And check out ontapsportsnet.com for all of our great golf coverage. I have my best bets column already up, as well as my full preview. I'm starting to pump out Masters content here soon, and we're going to have lots of good stuff coming out with the first major championship of 2024 right around the corner. But until then, everyone have a great rest of your week. Best of luck this week at the Valero Texas Open. We'll see you next time. Until then, crack 'em, lock 'em. Have a great rest.